I've said it multiple times already. I'm probably going to say it a few more times. I think the Georgia Bulldogs have an excellent chance of signing the #1 ranked recruiting class in 2024. I feel that way for a number of different reasons, but maybe the biggest is because the state of Georgia is absolutely loaded with elite prospects, more than I think in years past. 2024 is loaded, it's deep, it's talented, and there are plenty of in-state prospects who are ranked in the top 10, top 15, top 25 in the country. And if they land these in-state prospects, I think Georgia will end up with the #1 recruiting class. So I know your next question is, okay, Matt, well, who are their top in-state targets? Where are they ranked and where does Georgia sit with them? Well, of course, that's what this video is all about. So let's jump right into it. Right now, I'm looking at the On3 industry rankings, which apparently takes all the other sites, combines them into one. So these are supposed to be the most accurate rankings in the 2024 class right now. Of course, the #1 player in the state, KJ Bolden, a guy that Georgia's been after for a while now. Elite safety prospect, track and field star, can run. He's got plenty of size, 6 foot, 185 pounds. He likes Georgia, but he also likes Clemson. He likes Alabama. This is going to be a fight. Ohio State is pushing for him. This kid can go anywhere in the country that he wants to go. And I think Georgia sits in a good spot. Now, they already have 4 defensive backs right now committed. They've got Ellis Robinson at cornerback. They've got 2 safeties already committed, Peyton Woodyard and Jalen Hayward. And then they have DeMello Jones, who is in the secondary as well. So they're starting to load up in the secondary already. So I can understand other coaches, when they get him on campus, they're going to say, hey, Georgia took a load of defensive backs in the 23 class. They already have a number in the 24 class. So if you want to play early, it might not be at Georgia, even though he is the #1 safety, right, in the country, and a guy who I think is going to play early no matter where he goes. So Georgia only has 1, maybe 2 more spots in the secondary, and he is one of those guys that has the green light to commit whenever he wants. This is going to come down to official visits. Still like Georgia and where they sit right now. Right now, I would pick Georgia to land him, but there's still going to be plenty of time left. They're going to have to fight off a whole bunch of programs, but I like what they said right now. #2, Mike Matthews. Mentioned him in another video earlier this week. Georgia's in a real battle here as well with Clemson, with Tennessee. I've been told that both of those staffs feel very good about where they sit with Mike Matthews. Georgia's in the mix. USC is getting an official visit from him. I think he's going to give them a long look, but Georgia still sits in a decent spot. I don't think that they lead right now. If you had to make a decision today, not sure it would be Georgia, but I still think that they are in a good spot to land him. #2 prospect in the state, top 10 prospect nationally. Definitely a guy to keep an eye on. Georgia's still going to have to fight for him and land him in the end. They're going to have to beat out some big-time programs. #3, Edric Houston, another Buford Wolf. He's been to Georgia a number of different times. He's had an offer for a while. He likes the Georgia defense, what they've been able to do. He was in Athens to celebrate their back-to-back national championship. He was at that parade in January. 6'3", 255, can get after the quarterback, can stop the run. 5-star for a reason. They're going to have to battle, again, Alabama, Tennessee, Clemson, Ohio State. I think Notre Dame's in the mix. A lot of schools are still, but again, Georgia's in a really good spot to land him. Still going to have to win out, right? Still a long way to go, I think, here. I don't think he's, close to a commitment or anything like that. So while I do think Georgia sits in a good spot, they're still going to have to fight off a number of different programs. Sammy Brown, another guy, Georgia's going to get an official visit from him. He's going to Oklahoma to meet with Brent Venables, who he's, had a connection with, relationship with for a long time out in Oklahoma. At the end of the day, I think this is a Clemson-Georgia battle. I think Clemson leads right now for the 5-star linebacker out of Jefferson High School. Family ties to Tennessee. I'm not going to rule out Tennessee just yet. Still, Georgia and Clemson are the 2 teams out in front for him. I just put an insider nugget on Sammy Brown and a number of visits that he plans on taking, when he's going to take those official visits, when does he want to make a commitment. You can read all of that on Dog Post. But a guy who I think Georgia could land still. I think they're behind Clemson. But if they land him, I definitely, see the pattern of where they're going and possibly getting that #1 spot. They have Landon Thomas committed, 5-star tight end out of Colquitt County. He's #5. Cam Davis, #6, running back. I think he's a solid commit to Florida State right now, but he's from Albany, South Georgia. Kirby's known all about this kid for a while. Multi-sport star, big-time baseball player. Georgia's still trying to flip him at running back. Still think there's a possibility there. Right now, he's still firmly committed to Florida State. Definitely got to keep an eye on, though. Miles Graham comes in at number 7, Woodward Academy. He's going to Florida. Nycar, already committed. He's number 8 out of Colquitt County. Speedy wide receiver that I talked about earlier. They have Scovey White committed already at wide receiver as well. He's further down that list, though. Jake Merklinger, a guy who holds a Georgia offer, was in Athens this past weekend. I don't think they're going to take Jake Merklinger without Dylan Raiola first making a commitment. So I think Dylan Raiola is the guy. He's the guy, right? Number 1 quarterback, number 1 player in the country. If he decides to choose someone else, then I expect Georgia to turn up the heat on Jake Merklinger because, of course, like I've said for months and months and months now, Georgia plans on taking 2 quarterbacks. Daniel Calhoun, number 10. Again, Georgia's in a really good spot. He takes a lot of visits, though. Again, it's going to come down to Alabama, Tennessee, Clemson. That Georgia's fighting Tennessee and Clemson for a lot of these kids, especially in the state. Of course, Alabama's going to be there as well. So Daniel Calhoun, still like where Georgia sits with him. Maybe others are recruiting him a little bit harder. That's what some people say. But he's definitely a guy who's going to need to slim down a little bit. He's still got to lose some weight before he gets wherever he wants to go. But Georgia sits in a good spot. I think that's going to come down to official visits too. More information there over on DAWGS. Justin Green has a Georgia offer. Defensive lineman out of Mountain View in Lawrenceville, Georgia. I think others are still probably recruiting him a little harder than Georgia is. Caleb Odom, 4-star tight end out of Carrollton. One of the best players in West Georgia, period. But he had a big-time year last year of 1,000 yards. Helped lead Carrollton to the 7-8 state title game. Georgia just offered him. I think they're quietly climbing up his list. If they continue to push hard for him, he's a guy I could see bringing on, coming and committing to Georgia. Right now, I think a few others are recruiting him a little harder than Georgia is. DeMello Jones at number 15, committed to Georgia. Dwight Phillips, number 14 in the state, running back committed to Georgia. King Joseph Edwards is an edge defender out of Mill Creek High School. Georgia continues to push for him. I like where they sit. He takes a lot of visits. I think he's still fairly open to everyone right now. Right now, I do not see him at Georgia. I just don't know exactly where he is on their edge board, kind of outside linebacker hybrid role, but definitely one to watch. If they want to bring him on board and they push for him, I think they're going to land him. Christopher Jackson, edge defender out of Tucker, long, athletic. You look at that kind of Leonard Floyd type with those long arms, that wingspan, 6'4", 220, explosive off the line. I loved the film that he put out of Tucker last year. I think Georgia wants him, and he's high up Coach Drebe's board. I think he's going to give Georgia an official visit, so he's one to watch as well. Let's say Zion Reagan's explosive, speedy wide receiver out of Jones County. I think his size is not ideal. I think others are recruiting him more than Georgia is, but make no mistake, he's one of the fastest players in the country. Todd Hartley, Jones County guy. That's where Zion plays. So if they push hard for Zion Reagans and want to add even more speed, they've already got 2 guys who can run, Scovey White and Nycar. I think they would like to add some bigger receivers, but if they want to bring Zion Reagans on board, there's still plenty of time for them to turn up the heat and get that done. Let's see. Those are the guys. Cameron Fountain out of Booker T. Washington is a new name to know off the edge. Amir Jackson down in Portal, Georgia, 6'5", 210, tight end type. If they want to push for him, I think they possibly could. Jalewis Solomon is a wide receiver out of Sly County to know about. I think others are recruiting him a little harder than Georgia is. So overall, I mean, Georgia's going after the best of the best, right? That's what they do, especially in the state. If they land guys like KJ Bolden, which could happen, they're going to have to fight for Mike Matthews for sure. But tell you, if they do land KJ Bolden, Mike Matthews, Edric Houston, Sammy Brown, to go along with Landon Thomas, you're talking about the top 5 players in the state of Georgia, all going to Georgia. Now, I think that might be a little too optimistic, but I think crazier things have happened. But again, I think they are behind Clemson for Sammy Brown, might be behind Clemson and Tennessee for Mike Matthews right now. That could change. And I do think they're probably in the driver's seat for KJ Bolden and Edric Houston right now. So we'll see. You flip Cam Davis, that's another 5-star running back you're bringing on board. The state of Georgia is absolutely loaded, and there are so many players that Georgia isn't really pushing for. That's going to go somewhere and have a big-time career. So very deep, very talented across the state of Georgia. If you've been watching my videos, you know that by now, but I think Georgia's going to load up here. They've got 5 committed already, 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs, 1 running back, 1 tight end, and a defensive back. And I think they'll bring in at least 10, maybe 12 guys from the state of Georgia in this class. So just something to keep an eye on. Thanks for watching these videos. Hope you learned something. We've got a lot of stuff on Dog Post, so make sure you check that out, everything over on the site, and I'll see you over there.